Welcome, everyone, to Textiles and Tea with the Handweavers Guild of America. I'm Kathy Group. I get to be your host today. We want to welcome you all here today. And we especially want to thank Halcyon. They have been such a great sponsor for us here at Textiles and Tea, and we really do appreciate it. They are an amazing source of fiber supplies. If you're looking for roving, you're looking for yarn, you're looking for equipment, dye, go check out Halcyon. They have a great source of everything from wool and silk and cotton. Go check them out. We do appreciate their sponsorship today. I want to remind everybody to please put your questions in the Q&A and not in the chat. I love your chats. If I can see them, they're really fun, but we want to make sure we get all your questions, and I can't always get those if they're not in the Q&A instead of the chat. We are so excited today to have Vicki Assegued. She's going to be our guest today. She is a experimental and innovative fiber artist with a national instructor and continually new and unique ways to work with textiles and fibers. Through a creative process, she explores many methods to weave and layer, attach, coil, tie, knot, twist, build, and develop her pieces so that they're vibrant and engaging. When teaching, Vicki shares all of her techniques with her students, supporting and inspire them to fully engage in their own creative process of discovery and expression. Her students make gorgeous and unique pieces and feel truly inspired by her teaching to dive deeper into their own artistic practice. Vicki teaches at art schools and retreats, exhibits, and sells her own work. We are so excited to have you here today, Vicki. How are you?
Thank you so much, Kathy. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Well, we're excited. First of all, we want to know, what is your favorite tea?
Yes, I actually buy herbs in bulk and I make my own
Do
teas.
you really? Oh my gosh.
Yes. So I like combinations like nettles and rose hips and tulsi tea. I make all different blends and I make them myself.
That's amazing. I love that.
Thank
Especially
you.
nettles. I've heard so much more about nettles lately. I've got to try some of that tea.
It's good.
All right. So, how did you get started in fiber?
I got started in fiber through an interesting process. I used to be much more of an assemblage artist, making art out of found materials like wood and metal, plastic, glass. And I had such big collections of all of that, and I loved it and worked with it for quite a while. And then one year, just before Halloween, I was at a thrift store looking for materials for my art, and I saw the costumes. And I thought, oh my goodness, fabric is gorgeous. And so I decided to start playing around with making art out of fabric. And then that just took over my creative endeavors. And I've been working in fiber ever since. I still do some of the other object art, but I add that into my fiber art.
Vicki, that has to be the most unique "how did you get started" answer I've ever heard. That's amazing.
Thank you.
It's kind of encouraging. It's like, you just never will know what you're going to find where you go, right?
Right.
That's
Yep.
wonderful.
Thank
Yeah, it's
you.
interesting because you have a master's degree, but it's not in art. So can you talk some about that journey from one to the other?
Absolutely. My master's degree is in conflict resolution and restorative justice. And so I spent a lot of my career, many decades, working in those arenas. And while I was doing that very intensive work, I was also being an artist. I've always made art my whole life. So the art really helped balance out the intensity of the work that I was doing. And then over time, I started spending more and more time making art until I reached a point where I retired from that full-time work, went more into part-time work, and now I have a lot more time to make art and teach art.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's an interesting career. It's one of those that you don't meet someone every day that
Yeah.
does that. That's amazing.
Thank
Um, So your work has, you were talking about layers and we talked some about your bio, but your works is just layer after layer after layer. So I was curious when I was looking at that, how do you start? I mean, do
Yeah.
you know, okay, this is going to be layer one and I'm going to do this, this, and this.
Right. Yeah. Great question. You know, I have different things that inspire me when I start. Mostly, I will pick a fabric or a yarn that really excites me. And then I'll start working with that piece of fabric. For example, I might start wrapping it around something else, or I might get a loom ready with warp strings and start weaving that fabric in. Or I might cut the fabric and put stuffing in and sew it up. And so, depending on what mood I'm in for what I want, um, what kind of techniques I want to use, I just let that material kind of guide me to begin creating. And then as I go, I keep adding on different materials and seeing what goes with what. And so my process is really very spontaneous. It could be that I'm really in the mood to weave, or I'm really in the mood to sew, or to make a 3D basket. So that might be the inspiration to start me, depending on what I want to create. But then I just keep going from there and adding different materials. And I don't plan out my work ahead of time. I really love to be spontaneous and see what I've made so far and then add on to it.
I envision you walking around your studio going, that's what I want. Or walking over here and going, oh, this is what I want. Is it kind of like that?
It can be like that, or it could be like I just went to a yard sale and I got something and I'm so inspired by it. And so I'm going to go home and start making something out of that. Yes, or it could be like you said, Kathy, where something's on a shelf in my studio and it's like, oh yeah, this is the color scheme I'm in the mood to work with. And yeah, I just go from there.
So we've talked about how you start.
Hmm.
And I know this is kind of a stupid question, but I'm always curious, like, how do you know when you're done? Because,
Yeah,
they talk about less is more and that kind of thing. How do you know when it's time to stop? Don't add
yeah,
anymore.
yeah. Well, to me, the whole process for me of creativity is very intuitive. And so when I'm selecting what to put into my art or when I'm done with a piece, all of that just feels like it just sort of comes to me so that I know what I want to use and what I don't want to use. Um, and so when it comes to knowing when I'm done, I do a lot of stepping back to look at my piece and then going up to work on it, stepping back again, go up to work on it. And then there's a point where I just know. And usually once I know it is done, and occasionally when I know, I'll walk by that piece or look at it again and I'll think, ooh, I want to add something over here. Um, but one of the things that I love with getting toward knowing that it's done is that I do what I call auditioning. And so I'll be working on a piece and I'll think, okay, what do I want to add next? I need to audition some other materials. So I'll pick up a yellow material with embroidery or a red material with, or a piece of lace, and I hold it up to the piece I'm working on and I try it at all different angles. How about at the bottom? How about sticking out from the side? How about hanging over? And so I keep auditioning materials and how I'll use them and where. And then once I've decided, then I add that material. So that helps me to keep moving the process forward. Sometimes the auditioning is quick. I'll
Mhm.
hold up maybe three things and I'm in and I've got it. And other times it can take hours or even days to find that thing that really goes next, that just floats my boat. And I know that's the right thing.
I will never call my weeding sampling sampling again. I'm going to call it auditioning. I love that. That is so funny. That's good. But and it's true.
Yeah.
Kind of like, well, you aren't quite for this role. We're going to set you aside. You
I
may
like
have to
that.
get the next role, but not this one.
Right. I
And
like that.
that's so funny about stepping back. When I was in art school, we had art teachers that would make us do that. It was a painting, it wasn't even three-dimensional. And he'd make everybody walk to the back of the room and we all would roll our eyes and tromp over there. But it
Right.
did work. It really was a different point of view.
It really is. And you know, Kathy, another thing that I've found is a great point of view while the process is happening is take a photo of your piece. And somehow looking at the
Huh.
photo is different than looking at it in real time. And I get different ideas for what to do with my piece when I take a photo of it. So that's another
I
option.
have to try that. That's a good idea. All right. I'm
Thank
learning
you.
all kinds of things today.
I'm glad.
Um, So you've talked some about you get your materials from, like you said, you went to a thrift store or something. Where else do you get your materials? Do you have certain resources that are always good for you, or are you
Yeah.
looking for certain places?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I get my materials all over the place. I do go to thrift stores for sure. My favorite thing at a thrift store is when they have what's called a bag day, where you
Yeah.
can fill up a bag with as much as you can fit into it. So I will get clothing off the rack and I'll roll it up really tight and put it, and I can walk out of there with 20 pieces of clothing for $15. It helps the thrift store clear out their old stuff, and I get fantastic fabrics to use. I very rarely, if ever, buy new stuff. I love using something that has had a life before I've got it,
Yeah, yeah.
that's had its own history, which I usually don't know. Um, so I do a lot of work with used clothing. And then sometimes someone will have a yard sale, and if it's a great one, it's like somebody has decided to not do fiber art anymore, or maybe somebody has passed and they've left everything to a relative who isn't a fiber artist, and you can find a lot of wonderful things that way and carry on what that person, wanted to do with that and put my own spin on it. And then another thing I do is I live in the Bay Area in California, and there are a lot of reuse shops, like creative reuse, where they'll collect yarns and fabrics that other people have bought and haven't used for projects. And so they sell them at a big discount. And so I'll do that. And then where else do I go? There's a store in the Bay Area called Fabmo, Fabmo. It's in Sunnyvale, and they collect fabric that is headed for the dump, which
Mm.
is like designer samples, things like that. And then they have these sales every month where you can go and rescue basically these fiber materials instead of them going into the landfill. Um, and one other thing I would love to share is that finding materials, that story I told you about going to the thrift store at Halloween and seeing the beautiful fabrics, right before that happened, I got into a program in Santa Cruz, California, where I was living at the time, and I applied and was accepted, and it was called SCRAP, Santa Cruz Recycled Art Program.
Perfect.
Perfect. And what we did was we went to the dump, basically the landfill, as often as we wanted to for 4 months, and we could take anything we wanted and make art out of it. And at the
Wow.
end, we had a big show and talked about our process of turning trash into treasure and art. And we got to sell our work. And that was right before I switched over to the fiber art. And I absolutely love that so much. So I have sourced materials from the dump, which it was wonderful. That was more when I was into like wood and plastic and metal and that kind of thing. And then one other thing I'll share about where I get my materials is that I look for different substrates to act as a loom. So, for example, I might get plastic fencing, like the kind that goes around a construction site.
Oh, right, right.
That is amazing for weaving. And I love doing that, and I teach workshops in that. And then I also sometimes will use like a metal grate that can be turned into a shelf, but it makes a beautiful loom. And the weaving stays on it instead of being taken off. So I love getting different substrates to work on and weave or build or layer upon those.
Well, the second part of my question, and I was thinking about, well, I'll just ask question,
Yeah.
is what characteristics are
Mm.
you looking for when you're um, you're shopping or whatever? And the reason why
Yeah.
I'm asking this is because I like doing rag rugs. So I have bought cloth from like Walmart where when they printed it, it didn't align. So
Mm.
nobody wants that, right?
Right.
But me. And I've been there with friends and they'll go, there's a stupid cartoon image on this cloth. Why would you want that? And I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that. I just saw it had blues and greens that I like. So what
Yeah.
are the characteristics you're looking for?
Yeah, that's a great example. Um, the characteristics I look for, like you said, could be color, because in the type of work I do, sometimes you'll see the pattern, and sometimes, like you said, it all gets rolled or squished or coiled, and all you see is the color, not the actual pattern in the fabric, right?
Right.
So sometimes I'm going like for what you said, just the colors. Other times I'm looking for, I love specialty fabrics, especially from India. So, like
Hmm.
beaded fabric, embroidered fabric, super sparkly and shiny fabric, right? So, uh,
Here you go.
yeah.
There's some neat
So,
stuff in this piece.
yeah, there is some neat stuff in this piece. Yeah. So that's what I look for. Also, I there's a Pendleton store, Pendleton that makes the blankets. There's a store up in Portland, Oregon, and I go to Portland to teach at the Art and Soul Mixed Media Retreat. And this store that's in Portland, which is the Pendleton store, I don't know exactly what they do, but I think it's the ends of the blankets
It's
off
the
of
selvages, yeah.
the selvages,
Uh-huh.
yes. They're long, long strips and they're all fuzzy. And in this picture that you're seeing here, the black and white fuzzy stuff at the bottom is
Uh-huh.
from that Pendleton store.
Oh, did it? Yay.
Yeah. And so, they sell it in huge bags. It's very affordable and you can do so many fun things with it. So that's another wonderful resource.
Well, it's so funny you mentioned that because when you said a bag, I've been to Pendleton and I did the bag thing. And when you said bag, I thought, oh, yeah, that was Pendleton. And it was the same thing. I mean, I'm shoving those selvages in as hard as I can. And I'm sure there are tons of people popping out going, been there, done that, because those selvages are great for weaving, great for weaving.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
a dream to go up there. And they also ship it home for you, which is really nice.
That's right. They do. Yeah, the shipping is usually more than buying the materials because they're very affordable.
Um, so when you are I'm trying to make sure I say this right. Your work mostly is pre-made materials. What I've seen so far, it's like you said, you get some craft stuff here and some cloth here. But do you also? I know you've woven and you do braiding and all that. So, is it a combination of both, or is it
Mhm.
mostly pre-made now?
Oh yeah, I definitely have a combination of both. It's pre-made where I've bought the used clothing or the yarn or the string or whatever, but then I make things out of that before
Hmm.
adding it onto a piece. So I might do some wrapping or some braiding or a coiling. I love to make different kinds of tassels with all kinds of things coming off of them, pom-poms with all different, colors and designs. And then I also like to maybe make my own strands where I put different beads and fabric things and tassels and pom-pom, so those are ready and then I can add them on to my piece. And sometimes I'll make an extra piece to add on, but then I'll find, oh, that it doesn't really work, but I'll save it, of course. And then for another piece, I can potentially use it. Or it might be a launching off point where I'll take that piece I made for one piece that I didn't use, but I'll start a different piece with that.
Um, the image we were going to show right here was the assemblage red and yellow. I think it's popping up now. I wanted to see that. Yeah, here we
Mhm.
go. This is so gorgeous. And it's
Mm.
so, the thing I love about your work is that I could just sit and stare at it for a long time. You just find things and this pops up and that pops up. And that's what made me ask, are they made, pre-made, or do you make them yourself? Because, like something as simple as a pom pom. You can make your own pom poms, or you can, buy them at the store. So I love this assemblage that you've done here with this one. And the color is amazing. So rich, wonderful contrast. So my next question is about color, is that most of your work is very colorful, but you do have a few that are monochromatic. And most of your pieces are like this, just an explosion of color. Now, this one is not, but it's
Mhm.
just as powerful. So talk some about design and color. How do they work together for you? Do you one is more, is color more important than the texture? You
Mhm.
decide color first. How does that work for you?
Yeah, yeah. I do like to do a mix. Some of my pieces, as you said and have seen, have tons of color, very bright. And then because I am always experimenting, I want to push myself to do something different. And so I'll make this kind of black, white, silver, gray. They're all sort of similar tones in this piece, to experiment with it and see what I can do when I don't just bring in lots and lots of color. And what I find when I sort of set a new sort of parameter like that is that different things come out of me as an artist because I'm saying, okay, I'm not just going to pull anything I want. I'm going to stay with this one kind of color or similar to it. And it's really great because it leads me into some new discoveries that I might not have found if I had, just stayed doing it the one way. Um, and even when I do something like this, which is a bit more monochromatic, I might like hold up something pink or yellow or blue or whatever and just see how does this look with that? And that can give me an idea for another piece. Like
Ah.
I'm making a piece with a lot of black and white, but I'll add in a little color to that next one.
The next two works are very opposite in design. The one on the left is um, very neat, and the one on the right is fuzzier. It's got softer edges, and so and then the one on the right has more of a feeling of spontaneity, which may not be true, but I mean that's how it attracts me. And the one on the right just seems so well planned out. It's so asymmetrical and everything. So how how do they both come from the same person? They're so different.
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting. I think again, it ties back to me being so experimental that I love trying new things out. And so I I don't want to keep making the same thing over and over. I want to keep exploring and experimenting with different techniques, different materials, and things like that. And then I might also have some phases where I'll make several, like the one on the left, the layered fabric kind of a look with the protruding shapes. I'll try different ways to do that. Like in this one, I added a fringe at the bottom, just like trying different things out. And then the coil basket on the right is, although it does look more spontaneous, like the green and white tassels that go around the outside. That
Uh-huh.
was my third or fourth try at putting something around the outside
Really?
rim that actually I liked. And that's the thing, like I knew it wasn't finished, to go back to your earlier question, until I kept trying and trying and trying, and I finally said, yes, this is it. I found it. you know. So the other thing is that I have some students when I teach art who have taken a lot of my different workshops and they want more. And so I also love to keep experimenting so that I can keep developing new
Uh,
workshops, right? And then offer my students to keep learning new techniques.
well, then that leads me to a question that do you have several projects going on at once?
Oh, yes.
Oh, do you?
Yes, always.
So you're working on one, do you ever go, oh, I should do this on this one? And then,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I could do that. Really?
Yes. Are you in my studio with me? Yes, that totally happens where I'll be doing something on one and then I'll think this would look fantastic on that other
Yeah,
piece.
yeah.
So I'll go over there. And then sometimes I'm working on a piece for a while and I hit a block. Like I've tried auditioning so many things, I'm not sure what to put. I'm going to go work on that other piece. And then when I come back, it's like I have a fresh perspective and fresh eyes to figure out what I want to do next.
All right. I could do that all day long. I don't know if I'd ever finish anything though. That would be the problem. Um, so you've said that your inner world manifests itself in your artwork. Would you talk about that statement? That's an interesting statement. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I have quite a few things to share about that, the sort of inner world and how it comes out into my art. Um, well, I feel like the creative process is what life is. Life is a creative process, right? And so every day, all of us are making decisions, whether we're consciously thinking about that or we just, go to pick up the glass of water. I mean, we're making decisions all the time. And so I feel like when I go to make my art and I'm making very conscious decisions about what I'm going to put, it's sort of the sort of intensity of that life thing of making decisions throughout our days. And then I also feel like I'm very observant. I love to look at the world around me. And so I love nature and I'm excited by cities. And, so I look at what's around me. I might look at how does the color of that tree blend with that sky, that sunset sky, or how does that shape of that building inspire me of what I want to put in my next weaving? And it's not trying to emulate what I see. It's going for the inspiration that comes inside of me from what I'm looking at and then letting that transform into what comes out of me. Which will be totally different than whatever it is I looked at, but yet that thing I looked at inspired me. Um, and then another thing is that regarding making what we call quote unquote mistakes.
Uh-huh.
Okay. In life, all the time, we do something and say, oh, I wish I didn't, in art, how I like to manifest that idea of making a mistake is, oh, I accidentally cut that piece of yarn or that piece of fabric that I was working with. I didn't mean to cut it there. So then there might be that moment of disappointment, but then I try to reframe it. And I do this in a
Mm.
lot of things in my life, not just art. I try to reframe it and ask myself, what's the silver lining in this? And how can I make the most out of this thing that I did not mean to do? I didn't mean to cut that piece, right? And so then I say, what if I that I've cut it, what if I roll the edges back and stitch them and hang a tassel off? What if I put something behind that cut that I would not have even put before? What if I sew some cool embroidered thing on top of it to stitch it back together? And so in that way, I work with the mistake instead of letting it discourage me and stop me. So that's another way that I might, manifest sort of what's inside of me into the outside. And then let me see, I had some other things to share about that. Um, Another thing is, I like to sometimes imagine how to work with materials. So I don't necessarily imagine how a final piece will look because I don't ever know. but I'll go for a walk or I'll lay in bed with my eyes closed, something meditative. And I'll just imagine, what if I took that piece of wire and wrapped yarn and then took a bead and, and I try and just sort of visualize different techniques, different ways to use my materials and attach them together that I haven't done before. And then when I actually am in my studio and trying those things out, it's coming from that sort of visual vision that I had inside, and I'm putting it into my work. Um, and then I think you can see from my work, I have a real sense of playfulness. And, I sort of feel like if it's not too much, it's not enough. Like I do a lot of layering and adding and, all of that. And so there's a quote that I really like, or a little story about playfulness. And it's about Alexander Fleming, who discovered penicillin. And apparently, from what I read, he was accused by his boss of being too playful and treating research like a game and finding it all great fun. And so when someone asked Fleming what he did, he said, and I'm going to quote what he said, I play with microbes. It's very pleasant to break the rules and to be able to find something that nobody had thought of.
Oh, wow. Being playful is not something I would have thought of with a scientist, especially penicillin. That's amazing.
I know.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right. It has a new attitude. Um, well, Mandy, I'm going to be a pain. Would you bring that slide back up again? I want you to talk about this piece.
Okay,
It just glows with color and is amazing. So just share some about this piece.
sure. This is a fiber wrapped coil basket. And so I'm using beautiful, very bright, colorful fabrics and yarns together. And then as the coil basket builds up, then I start adding on the fringe, the
Oh, okay.
trim, the flower shapes, the hanging pieces with the tassels at the end. And I will probably continue building up on this piece. It feels to me like it's not done, that it has more to go. So uh, and you can actually see the white rope behind it, where that's what I'm building it with. And so, again, lots of auditioning to get to this place where it is now. And then I think quite a bit more to go on this one.
I would imagine your classes are so much fun
Thank you. They are.
because it's not like right or wrong. It's like, let's play. Let's just see what we got.
Exactly. Mixed in with learning a lot of techniques so that you can, keep trying different ways of bringing out your own aesthetic.
Well, I'm such a spaz. I could do that. I could just go, oh, more. But do you ever work with people that you kind of got to get them to loosen up a little bit, that they're afraid to, because, we're all not, we didn't go through school with that. Make something beautiful. It doesn't matter. You can color outside the line attitude.
Exactly. Yes, I do. I have students who are very free with it, and then students who are feel so blocked and they're afraid to put something down, and they'll be auditioning and auditioning and auditioning, and in the workshops, so I definitely support my students who feel blocked by encouraging them to try something new, break out of what they normally do. And just to have a new experience and see if they like it. And the thing with the fiber arts I teach, you can always take something out if you don't like it and put
Hmm.
something else in it or over it or around it. So it's a very forgiving art form.
What's your goal then for your students? What do you want them to think or say or feel when they walk out of your class?
Yeah.
What would you say would be successful for them?
Yeah. Such a good question. I want my students to really love the journey of
Mm.
making art. I want them, if they have fear or they feel blocked or They feel like I could never make something like you. I want to show them, yes, you can. It's just about learning the techniques, having the materials available, and I bring tons of materials to my workshops. And to feel like I want my students to feel like this is so exciting. Like I didn't even think I could do this and I can. Or I thought I could do this and I didn't know I could, like I didn't know this technique existed. And so now I have it and I can create this different effect, this different look. And so I want my students to be really inspired, that with new skills, new courage, to make and even if they are afraid, to be afraid and do it anyway. Just keep going for it. And then I want my students to feel comfortable with the techniques, to not feel like, oh, I don't know how to make this happen. So I work both with the group and I go around a lot and give one-on-one attention to people to help them to work in whatever way they want to. And another thing I really want for my students is, yes, I'm teaching techniques, and I want you to make it your own. I want you to find your own aesthetic, your own way to use these techniques so that this really feels unique and precious to you. You know, um, Another thing I really love when I teach is I teach quite a few different techniques in every workshop, and each workshop is very different. And so I encourage people try out every technique that I'm teaching, even if you don't want to apply it to your piece that you're making, at least get the muscle memory, the visual, the mental memory of it so that it's in there. And after the workshop, you've already done it and you can repeat it and you'll be able to work independently with those new techniques. And then what else? I have students who go home from the workshop and they'll send me a photo of something they made after the workshop.
Oh, how fun. How
I-
nice.
Isn't that great, Kathy? I just
Yeah.
love that. And I always encourage students, please send me photos. I want to see what you're making. And I am so elated to see that it wasn't just that day or that weekend or that week, whatever, however long we were together, that they brought it with them and kept doing it. And then some of my students really want to sell their art, exhibit it, sell it, or maybe give it as gifts. And so I always show this is how you finish off the back of the piece, the bottom of the piece, make it look really professional and finished so that it's ready to go if that's something that you're interested in.
Well, you've got people singing your praises over in chat. They're popping up, and
Oh,
I guess you've seen the hearts and the flowers and everything. So you've got a
oh,
following here, which
thank
leads
you.
me to this question. Okay, how would you answer this? Somebody comes up to you and says, "What do you do for a living?" Do you
Mm.
say you're an artist? Do you say you're a teacher? How do you answer that question?
Oh, well, I'm still working at another job, so I might answer with that. I'm the activity
True,
director.
true.
Right? I finished my career as doing restorative justice and conflict resolution, and now I work part-time as an activity director at a senior residential community.
Did you really?
Yes.
Oh, they are so lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so lucky. I love them. They're my extended family. And so I've taught quite a lot of art here. I have a man who is 86 years old. He has never made art in his life. He's doing mosaics, collage, assemblage. I mean, it's just incredible. And we hang their art around the place, and it's just so exciting. So back to your question. When someone asks me what I do, I might share that, and I might share like I teach art and I'm a fiber artist, and it depends how interested they are for how in depth I'll go with that.
Mhm.
But the making of art, the exhibiting, the selling, the commissions that I do, that's all part of it. But I would say, teaching as far as career wise with the art,
Mhm.
yeah, that's really just a huge passion for me to share techniques and watch other people manifest their own art and excitement.
Well, it sounds so wonderful. I bet your class is just a hoot. And some people were saying they had a great time and it was online. That's hard to
Yeah,
do. That's hard to do. Good for
yeah,
you. So
yeah,
what's next for you?
yeah. Well, I am with the new year. I've been planning a lot of workshops for this year.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I'm continuing to do that, to plan more workshops around the country and hopefully overseas. I'm working on some of that as well.
Ooh.
Very exciting. And my partner and I make looms and sell them. So we are continuing to make looms and to think about new designs of how to do that. And they're very simple frame looms, and I bring them to workshops for my students to use. And then, of course, I will always continue exploring new techniques, making new projects, both for my own art and to share with my students. And another thing I've been doing lately, Kathy, I have some pieces that I've made that I'm not thrilled with, and they're on a shelf. And so what I'm starting to do now is, okay, here's this weaving I made. I don't like it just as sort of the how it was on the loom. So I'm taking it and folding it and leaving this out and take a needle and thread and sew this part together so it does this and put some stuffing in the back, and transforming. So that's another thing that is next for me is like taking the pieces that I wasn't thrilled with originally and doing
Hmm.
something completely new with them, maybe a technique I hadn't discovered yet when I made it. And now I pull it out again and apply that new technique and, recreate it. Another like that I'm making right now is I pulled out two pieces that I had made at totally separate times. And I don't know how I thought of it, but I hung one in front of the other and I couldn't believe it. It was perfect. So I've now put those together and I'm adding like sort of a third thing on top of all of that. So, just keep experimenting and then just to keep, I want to keep exhibiting and sharing my work also and bringing that sort of inspiration and joy that I feel and sharing that with the people who see my art.
So if a guild wanted you to come teach, they can contact you and set
Mhm.
that up. Now, are your classes listed on your website?
My classes are listed on my website and I add new ones on as they get developed. And yes, I've taught with fiber art guilds, and I also have a presentation that I give called Taking Our Art Beyond Where We've Been, which is a lot of what I've been sharing today about,
Uh-huh.
how to keep expanding what you do with your art.
All right. Well, we have questions. Shall we take questions?
Sure.
People are going to yell at me because this is the first one. This is from Connie. I know, Connie. What is the range of sizes for your pieces? I meant to ask and I forgot.
Oh, no
So,
problem.
what are some of the what size? Let's start with what do you like to work in? What size?
My large pieces, my largest so far are about 4 feet tall.
Okay.
Yeah, and then some of my work is quite a bit smaller. I also want to start working bigger. I just need to figure out in my space, how to do that.
Logistics, right?
Yeah, the logistics, right. But you can always make panels that can then be attached together if you want to go bigger. So, yeah.
So, like the last one we looked at, the one I asked you to talk about, the basket that you said you may
Yeah.
add to it. What size was that?
That was probably like a foot and a half.
Really? Oh, I thought it
Yeah.
was much bigger.
Hmm.
Wow, that's tiny to work in. Oh, good fine motor skills. Oh, this is a good question. No one's ever asked this before. Mausi? I know I'm destroying your name. I apologize profusely. But anyway, do you ever name your pieces? And if so, what inspires the name?
Oh, yeah. I name my pieces when I exhibit them. I don't name them when I'm making them or when I have them, but when I exhibit, I name them. And usually what inspires me is I like to have one word because my feeling is that art is in the eye of the beholder. And so I want whoever's looking at my art to have their own experience of it. And so I don't want to put a name that sort of compresses the experience. So the name might be something like entrance, portal,
Mm.
something like that, where the viewer can just go wherever they want with their experience of it.
Um, this is from Sally Adler. Sally had a couple, I had a statement in the chat that I want to bring up also that was pretty interesting. But first she said, do you take notes to help you remember things that inspire you and how they translate into inspiration?
Yes. So great. Like when I was saying earlier, how when I take a walk, I sometimes will envision that. Sometimes if I bring my phone with me, I will talk into my phone, you know,
Oh
um,
yeah,
right on my notes.
right, right.
And I'll say, okay, take that coil thing that I made on Thursday and try attaching it to that piece that I da 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 da, so that when I get home, I'll remember the things that I had thought about. Yeah.
What a great idea. What a great idea. This is from Christine Williamson. Hi, Christine. Can you describe some of the techniques you teach?
Yeah, sure. Everything that you saw. And then
Okay,
a whole lot
Christine.
more. Yeah. So I teach the fiber wrap coil baskets,
There
but
you
you
go.
can see they're way beyond a regular basket. I teach the layered fabric assemblage.
Um,
I teach a class I called Going Beyond the Frame, where we wrap a frame in all kinds of fibers and fabrics and then
oh,
add things.
fun.
It's so fun. And then we build like stuffed things and wrap them around the frame and do all kinds of things. And I teach quite a variety of different weaving workshops on those different substrates that I was mentioning, as well as on a regular frame loom. So, yeah. And then I'm also about to launch a new course on how to make cordage. Like, when you twist cords,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And like attaching beads to the cords and all different materials and how to make really amazing different tassels and flowers. And so, I'm just always creating new courses. And sometimes I teach a lot through art schools and at retreats. And then I also will sometimes just send out an email to my student base and say, hey, I'm going to teach on Zoom because I have students all over the place. So I'm going to teach such and such, and we'll do it on Zoom, and that way people can come. So I have a contact page on my website, vickyart.com, and anybody who would like to can contact me through that contact page if you would like to be on my email list. I don't send out frequently, but once in a while I do, and then you'll see what I'm up to. Yeah.
Oh, we just posted your website in the chat for those who want to see it. So how, I get, it doesn't really matter. I guess I was just curious, how many days are your workshops? Do you do like a 1 day, a 2 day, a 3 day, or whatever the guild or whoever wants?
Yes, whatever
Good.
the school wants. I One day is common. I do weekends. I do week long
Oh,
work.
wow.
Those
Oh
are
my
so much
gosh.
fun. Yeah. So yeah, whatever the place I'm working with wants, or like at Art and Soul Mixed Media Retreat, I teach a different workshop each day. This year I'm teaching
Oh,
5 different workshops on 5 different days, and they're each a full day long. So it
this sounds
varies.
exhausting. You must take good care of yourself in order to do that. That's a lot of energy.
I
Um,
actually get energized by
oh,
teaching.
good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
This is from Dorothea Black. How do you store and organize all your inspiring materials? That is a great question, Dorothea,
Yes, it
for
is.
both workshops and personal use.
Yes. I get asked this a lot, and um I read a really funny quote that being a fiber artist is being a fiber artist, it's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle with a storage problem.
True.
Yes. So I have different ways that I do it. One is I have in my studio, I have a lot of shelves built into the wall. And so one shelf will be all white fabrics folded up and,
Oh, really? By color?
by color.
Oh,
And then
okay.
I have a huge bookshelf that is specialty fabrics. And so those are all different colors, but just like my, ooh, these are like my favorites, those will be in there. And then I use a lot of the plastic bins, the see-through for my yarns. Like one bin will be all yellow yarn, one will be all white yarn. I have bins for strings, bins for buttons, and then smaller plastic containers for jewelry kind of things that I'm going to use. So yeah, all different ways. And it's always, when you do a lot of auditioning, a lot of stuff gets pulled out and is on the table. And then you go, it's like, okay, let me take some time to put this all away so that I have room to keep working, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my Achilles heel is the putting it away part. So,
You're not alone.
um, this is another question. Actually, it's a statement from Sally, and I think it's a wonderful statement. It says, I see a relationship between conflict resolution and the psychological problems of the individual and overcoming creative blocks. Does it ever feel similar to you?
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
bet.
Yes, that's a great question and so observant. Thank you for pulling different parts of my life together. Yes, I have often thought that the challenges that come up with making art have similarities to mediation and doing conflict resolution, that it's really about problem solving and brainstorming and going outside the box to figure out what can be done to, get through this situation into something better. So yeah, there's definitely overlap. Yeah.
That's a great question. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sally. Um, this is from Karen LeBlanc. Where or how do you exhibit your work? And do you have collectors who are interested in your work as soon as you finish something?
Mm. Um, yes, I do have some people that really love to
I
see what's
bet. I
next.
bet.
Yeah. I exhibit at different places. I've done open studios, which I love because the community comes to where I work and can see where I work and see my pieces, and I can interact with them and talk about my work, find out if they're artists. I don't like to just talk about me. I like to also find out, about them and their creative endeavors. And then I've been showing in museums, galleries, First Friday exhibits,
Mm.
restaurants, community centers, all different places. Yeah. And I also do commissions. If someone either comes to a workshop or sees my work and says, oh, I've got this situation coming up in my life and I want a piece like this, and we work very closely together.
Oh, great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Karen, I'm not sure about this question, but it says, how do you structure any workshops you do? What are the takeaways and what are your deliverables?
Mm.
I'm not
Okay.
sure about the deliverables part.
Yeah.
Um,
How do
so
I
how do you structure your workshop?
how do I structure it? So first of all, everybody has such different tastes. And so I bring a lot, bins and bins and bins of fabrics, yarn, strings, buttons, whatever it might be, so that my hope is that every student that comes will find materials that they love, and that does happen. And you know how it is to have access to someone else's stash. It's just so exciting. So I like to give that, and I bring really beautiful stuff. So that's one. A lot of my workshops are just show up. If you don't have stash, if you've never made fiber art before, you can come to my workshop and make beautiful art. Every workshop is that way. It's structured for beginning through advanced artists. So that's one part of my structure. And then another is that we go step by step. This is how this particular project, whether it's how do we put the warp strings on the loom? What are
Mm.
some tricks for tightening the warp strings before you tie it so that you know it's going to stay even across and be really tight? Or okay, we're making that fiber wrap coil basket. What are different ways that you can start it and you get to choose. I'll show you this way and this way and this, and you choose what way you want, and so you can put in different fabrics, different stitches, different whatever you want. So I teach, I do demos, and I give options. And then as people get that first step going, then I say, okay, let's gather, come on up, and let me show you my next technique that we're going to add. And then some people will keep doing the first technique and then move to the second. Others right away will move to the second technique. And so I just keep adding and adding. And as the piece is getting built, then I start adding, how about a tassel? Let me show you how to make a tassel that goes beyond other tassels, or how about a this? How about a fringe that you might want to add over here? And so I do, it's not only techniques that I teach, I also teach like how to tap into your own aesthetic, right? So, what do you think about this thing here and this thing there? And then we take time to look at each other's art. And now each person will say, this is how I decided to put this here. This was my grandfather's, cover on his piano. And so I cut it up and, so I have everyone share how they came up with it. I want everyone to teach each other, not
Mhm.
just me teaching, and everyone to inspire each other. And I tell people, if you see someone else doing a technique that you love, you can do that too. Or if someone else pulled out that really cool sparkly fabric, you're welcome to ask if you can share that too. So I like it to be very collaborative and sharing. And, I let students know if you want to bring materials to share, you can do that too. If you have too much in your stash and you want other people to use it, and that's always fun. So basically, I just keep adding and adding and giving people so that when you leave my workshop, you've learned so many different ways to think about making art, techniques, aesthetics, all of that, so that you can really go home and keep full on, keep going. And I always welcome my students. If you are like, wait, what did Vicki say? But you can always contact me and I'll jump on
Oh,
Zoom
that's
with
good.
you or a phone call and show you how to do
Well, I'm ready. I want to go make something. I'm
it.
excited. Well, I can't believe it, but we have to stop for today. Vicki, thank you so much for being on here. This was great. And all the comments are that people are excited and inspired, and they love your approach to teaching and making. And so thank you
Thank you.
so much. I really appreciate how much you've shared about your process. Everybody loves hearing that. And I appreciate you sharing how much you did today. Thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you, Kathy and Mandy and Elizabeth and everybody there and everybody who came to listen today. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to share. I really appreciate it.
So here's Vicki's website. Go check it out if you're looking for a class. You want to see more of her artwork, it's amazing. Go check it out and see. And if you have information that you want from her, you can contact her through that also. So thank you so much, Vicki. We want to thank Halcyon Yarns today for being our sponsor. They got all kinds of stuff that you could get for a workshop. Go check them out if you're looking for yarn or roving or equipment, books. They've got it. We appreciate Halcyon being such a wonderful sponsor for Textiles and Tea this year. We do appreciate it. If you would like to sponsor an episode of Textiles and Tea, all you have to do is go to the website, choose a date. It could be for your group, it could be for your guild, a business, a bunch of you got together and you want to sponsor something. We would love to have you. Just go online and you can pick a date and purchase that sponsorship. Excuse me. So, sorry, I'm lost here. Oh, you know what's coming up? The Guild Development Retreat. It's so funny. Somebody the other day commented in the comments that they liked the Guild Development Retreat. What a great way to share with each other. We bring in people to teach, which is really important, but I think what you learn from each other is just as important. So keep that in mind if you want to come to the Guild Retreat. It's a 1 day online. It's a chance to share. We get people to tell you things. People get motivated. You walk away going, you know what? I bet my guild could do that. So check that out. It's going to be January the 31st. It's a Saturday. And guild members can register up to the up to 4 attendees. If your guild is a member of HTA, you get 4 attendees, and individuals can come for just $25. So it's a chance to invest in your future. I've heard some of the topics, and they are amazing topics. Everything people are wondering about, whether it's what kind of tax exemption are you, and whether you can, how do you get more members, and how do you do this, how do you do that? It's great. Wonderful. Here we go. Elizabeth has posted some of the panels. What structure is right for your guild? How to develop and get bigger. Rental. That's always a big issue. Equipment rental. So anyway, you can read it. Check it out. Guild Development Retreat, January the 31st. Do not miss. Also, we've got a new membership until the end of January, and it's a great idea for those of you who do not care about getting a paper magazine. You just want the digital. You can do that at a discount rate. It's only $29. It's a 1 year individual. You can't do a student or a family. It's an individual membership, but it's only $29. And then you can have that until January, and then it's not going to be offered anymore after that. So it's a great way to start the new year. Try out this new membership. If you don't care about the paper, you just want to do it on your iPad or phone or whatever, there you go. So check that out. You can you can do that online. If you've, we want to thank everybody for joining and donating. When you donate, you are helping us with Guild Retreat, Textiles and Tea, Spinning and Weaving Week, all those programs, and it's helping us look to what do we want to do next. We are offering these programs for our membership, and it's what the members are telling us they want. And you help us do that by sponsoring and giving a donation or joining. So if you want to join or donate or both, you can go to weavespindye.org and you can join there. And you can even use that new membership. Try that out. We also want to, if you've missed an episode, you can watch it on Facebook or you can watch it on YouTube. Just a reminder, I know some of you are sick of me saying this, but Facebook will only let you watch it for 30 days now. They changed their rules, but you can watch all of them anytime on YouTube. If you think you might be doing that, sign up for YouTube, subscribe to it, because when you do, then you'll get a notice when a new episode's been uploaded. Okay. Thank you so much. We've got John Paul Smith next week. He's an interesting artist. I think y'all will be interested to see what he does. Something a little bit different. I'm so excited to have him next week. I hope y'all have a wonderful week and happy tea.